When we imagine the year 2050 and beyond, we often picture flying cities, glowing skylines, and technologies that blur the line between science fiction and reality. But one of the most fascinating visions of that future lies not in skyscrapers or gadgets, but in the cars we will drive. Or rather, the cars that will drive us. Because by mid-century, the automobile will no longer be just a machine for transportation, it will be a living, thinking partner in human mobility, blending artificial intelligence, sustainable power, and radical design into vehicles that feel more like companions than tools. And as we look ahead, the first and most inevitable revolution is the rise of fully autonomous cars, but not the kind of clunky self-driving prototypes we see today. By 2050, AI will have reached such sophistication that cars will not only navigate roads without human input, they will learn their owners' habits, moods, and even health conditions, adapting their driving style to provide comfort and safety, meaning that a morning commute could feel like a spa session, with the car adjusting lighting, scents, and even music based on biometric feedback, while also scanning traffic conditions across an entire city in real time, predicting accidents before they happen, and communicating seamlessly with every other vehicle around it. But perhaps the most exciting dream of the future lies in the skies, because the flying car, once dismissed as a Jetson-style fantasy, will almost certainly dominate by 2050, using vertical takeoff and landing technology powered by lightweight electric turbines or advanced hydrogen engines, allowing commuters to rise above congested streets and soar directly to their destinations, with skylanes mapped out by AI traffic controllers, creating a new three-dimensional grid of transportation that turns every city into a living organism of air and ground mobility. And while these flying cars may begin as luxury vehicles for the wealthy, the pace of technological democratization suggests that by 2070 or later, they could become as common as today's electric sedans. Alongside flight, another force driving the evolution of cars will be energy innovation. As fossil fuels become relics of the past and vehicles embrace clean, renewable power, with solar cars leading the charge, designed with body panels that double as ultra-efficient solar cells, constantly recharging themselves, whether parked or moving, making the concept of refueling obsolete. And for cloudy days or long journeys, backup hydrogen fuel cells and advanced graphene batteries will provide nearly limitless range, ensuring that cars of the future are not just emission-free, but also virtually self-sustaining, running indefinitely with minimal human intervention. And let's not forget the radical rethinking of car design itself, because when cars no longer need steering wheels or engines in the traditional sense, their interiors will evolve into rolling living rooms, entertainment hubs, or even mobile offices, with holographic displays replacing dashboards, gesture-controlled systems replacing buttons, and seats that morph into beds, gyms, or cinemas depending on the passenger's needs. And while that may sound like a distant utopia, consider that even today, automakers are experimenting with concept vehicles that change shape at the push of a button, folding for easier parking or expanding into social spaces for families, meaning that by 2050, cars will no longer be defined by rigid forms, but by fluidity, responding to context in ways that make them feel alive. And so, as we stand on the brink of this technological revolution, one thing becomes clear. The car of the future will not simply be a vehicle, it will be a living, breathing extension of ourselves, reshaping the way we move, live, and dream. If the first half of the future of cars is defined by autonomy, flight, and sustainability, the second half is where imagination truly breaks the boundaries of physics, because as we move past 2050 into the later decades of the 21st century, engineers will begin to experiment with technologies that make today's science fiction feel almost primitive. And at the forefront of this wave will be self-healing cars, vehicles built with nanotechnology and smart materials that can literally repair themselves, meaning that a scratch on the bodywork or even a crack in the windshield will not require a mechanic, but will instead trigger microscopic robots or shape memory polymers to realign and restore the surface within minutes, effectively making maintenance obsolete and ensuring cars remain pristine for decades. And this technology won't just be cosmetic. Tires that regenerate tread, batteries that automatically rebalance their chemistry, and frames that adjust stiffness based on driving conditions will all redefine what durability means, creating cars that feel nearly immortal. But humanity's ambition rarely stays grounded, and as space travel becomes more commercialized, the very definition of a car will expand beyond Earth, with lunar rovers for tourism on the moon, Mars crawlers designed to withstand dust storms and thin atmospheres, and even interplanetary exploration vehicles that can operate in both space and gravity-rich environments, giving rise to a new generation of cosmic cars that transform mobility into an interstellar adventure. And while these sound futuristic, companies like SpaceX, Blue Origin, and NASA are already laying the foundation for such vehicles, meaning that by the 2060s or 2070s, the idea of a family taking a road trip across the Martian plains may not be fantasy, but reality. Back on Earth, however, the ocean represents another frontier, and by 2050 we may also see amphibious and fully submersible cars enter mainstream use, allowing people to dive beneath the waves in vehicles that double as luxury yachts and exploration submarines, opening up a hidden world beneath the seas where coral reefs, shipwrecks, and underwater cities can be explored as easily as today's highways. And while these designs will initially be the playground of the wealthy, history suggests they will eventually filter down to broader society, creating a future where mobility is not limited to land or sky, but extends to every surface of the planet. Yet the most profound transformation may not be in the cars themselves, but in the ecosystem they create. Because as cities adapt to these vehicles, parking lots may vanish, highways may shrink, and rooftops may become landing pads, shifting urban design into something more fluid and human-centered, while AI-managed traffic eliminates congestion and accidents, saving millions of lives every year. And with zero-emission vehicles dominating, the air will become cleaner, cities quieter, and the relationship between humanity and the planet more harmonious. Because in the end, future cars are not just about speed, luxury, or spectacle, they're about healing the scars left by the 20th century's obsession with combustion engines, and giving us tools to live more sustainably while still embracing our innate desire to explore. But perhaps the most fascinating question is not what these cars will look like, but how they will reshape us as people. Because if cars become our companions, our protectors, and our gateways to the stars and seas, then mobility will no longer be defined by necessity, but by possibility, opening up entire new ways of living, working, and dreaming. And so, as we gaze toward the horizon of 2050 and beyond, one thing remains. The cars of the future will not merely transport us from point A to point B, they will transport us into entirely new dimensions of existence.